Ancient times, the power of misinformation in war and survival. In recent years, terms like disinformation and misinformation have become hot political buzzwords, and they're often used to describe media manipulation, fake news, and deliberate deception by various groups. While the language feels modern, the concept is as old as human civilization itself. Disinformation, or the act of deliberately spreading false information to influence decisions and shape events, has long been a tool of war, survival, and control. So in this series, we're going to explore how disinformation has affected survival across history, from the ancient world to modern day. The tactics may have evolved, but the underlying strategy has remained the same: create confusion, sow doubt, and manipulate decisions to gain an advantage. In this first episode, we'll focus on ancient times, showing that disinformation has always been a part of survival. As the famous quote goes, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Understanding the ancient tactics in this first video gives us a clear picture of how manipulation and deception are as dangerous as any weapon. The Battle of Kadesh, the false victory that led to a draw. Everyone's familiar, or they should be, with the Trojan horse story, but there are many more that most haven't heard of. A lesser-known example of disinformation from ancient times is the Battle of Kadesh in 1274 BCE, fought between the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II and the Hittite king Muwatalli II. This battle was one of the largest chariot battles ever fought, and its outcome has puzzled historians for centuries. Here's the twist. Both sides claimed victory. Ramses II, despite being caught in a precarious position on the battlefield, managed to escape what could have been a complete disaster. He spun the events to his people through inscriptions and monuments as a great Egyptian victory. However, in reality, the battle was more of a stalemate, with neither side gaining the upper hand. So how did this happen? Ramses was lured into an ambush. The Hittites spread false intelligence, convincing the Egyptians that the Hittite forces were far away. Believing they had the advantage, Ramses' forces advanced, only to find themselves surrounded by Hittite chariots. In a near disaster, Ramses barely managed to rally his troops and escape. But when he returned to Egypt, he didn't admit defeat. Instead, he used disinformation to shape the narrative, portraying himself as the hero who had driven the Hittites into retreat. The true outcome of the battle was a peace treaty several years later, one of the first in recorded history. But the way Ramses manipulated the narrative, spreading the falsehood of an Egyptian victory, highlights how disinformation can mask reality. People may be familiar with Ramses' legacy as a great warrior king, but fewer know that it was built in part on spinning a near defeat into a propaganda victory. Misinformation as a survival tactic. In ancient times, misinformation wasn't just used by rulers to claim victory, it was also an essential part of survival for communities. During times of famine or natural disaster, rumors about food supply, water, or shelter were often spread deliberately to protect valuable resources. Communities would mislead rivals or enemies by spreading false reports, keeping their stores hidden and secure. As an example, nomadic tribes in the Middle East and North Africa would often spread false information about the location of oases in the desert. By leading their enemies or their rivals to waterless locations, they protected their own access to life-sustaining resources. Those who fell for these tricks often suffered dehydration and death. This method of using disinformation for survival mirrors many modern-day scenarios where information becomes scarce and precious during times of crisis. In a post-collapse world, or even during natural disasters, preppers must be wary of misleading rumors about supplies, safety, or evacuation routes. Just like the ancient tribes, people today can use false information to throw others off course or protect their own survival. So why does this matter for us today? Well, the tactics of disinformation from ancient times may seem distant, but the lessons are still highly relevant to survival today. We understand that information is key to making sound decisions. whether in times of crisis or long-term planning. However, misinformation can spread faster than wildfire, especially in the digital age, where rumors and false news travel far and wide before the truth has a chance to catch up. We've seen it over and over. In modern times, disinformation can take many forms, from government reports that downplay crises to social media rumors about shortages, dangers, or conspiracies. Just as Ramses spun the Battle of Kadesh to present himself as victorious, authorities or groups today may present incomplete or false narratives to protect their interests or manage public perception. Recognizing this helps all of us avoid making critical mistakes in times of crisis. In the next episodes of this series, we'll look at more recent examples of disinformation, from Cold War propaganda to fake emergency reports, and how these events shaped survival strategies. Disinformation has always been a tool for control, but it has also been a tool for survival. Whether in ancient warfare or modern-day prepping, those who know how to navigate misinformation are better equipped to thrive in a world where falsehoods can be as deadly as any weapon. The concept of disinformation may seem like a modern phenomenon, especially with the rise of terms like fake news and misinformation in recent years, but history shows that it's as old as human conflict. Disinformation has always played a critical role in survival. This series will continue to explore how disinformation has shaped survival across history and into the present day, giving us the tools we need to navigate a world where not everything is as it seems. As we move forward, remember that those who do not learn from history are indeed condemned to repeat it. And nowhere is this truer than when it comes to the power of disinformation.